ways. I think we have to go back a stage and remember that the whole point of the euro was to create long-term peace in a continent which had had centuries of wars. And the concept of the euro was perfectly sound. Unfortunately, what we also had were politicians who lied and cheated, and they borrowed far more than they signed up to, and they broke the rules. Of course, the first country that broke the rules was Germany. And when Germany did it, that gave carte blanche to every other country to do it.
So Germany borrowed sort of beyond the borrowing limits that were allowed, did they?
Absolutely.
And so everybody else thought, well, if Germany can do it, the biggest economy in Europe, well, we can do it. Yeah?
Absolutely. That's what happened. Therefore, from 10 years ago, some of us knew and some of us were saying that the end was nigh. And of course, the politicians right up to David Cameron were saying until just weeks ago, we can make this thing work. Well, it's been inevitable that it was going to crash and burn for the last few years.
Well, you say inevitable, not so inevitable that it prevented our Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne, from putting in billions of pounds of British taxpayers' money to try and prop it up.
I couldn't agree more. In other words, they spent our money trying to prop up something which could not continue because of the dire finances of many of the countries in Europe. The fact is, we in Britain and across Europe and right across the world, we've had a debt binge for 20 or 30 years. We've had a party. People need to get real. We're now in the biggest economic hangover in history.
So what do they do with the euro, Jonathan, and how will that impact upon people across Birmingham and the Black Country?
The country after country, starting with Greece probably, will leave the euro, go back to the drachma, which will massively devalue. It will mean that they, as a country, will see more tourism going into it because it'll be cheap to have holidays there. They'll do sort of what I call airfix type manufacturing, just putting stuff together, and they'll export it. It could well affect the airfix type manufacturing in the West Midlands detrimentally.
Sort of assembly work, really, yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Country after country will leave the euro. The euro will crash and burn as a currency. The pound and other currencies will strengthen massively against it. It will massively bring down the stock market. Those people who have invested in their pension funds and their ISAs in the markets should be very wary of the stock market right now because we're predicting a very significant crash over the next months and year or two. So people should lock in their gains that they've made over the last few years. It will just actually be the continuation of the economic crash which started in 2008. Those who said they saved the world in 2009, nothing could be further from the truth.
So it's like a slow motion crash.
Absolutely. They simply kicked the can down the line. They exacerbated the problem by borrowing even more. And who's paying for it? Not the bankers, not the politicians, but you and me, the normal taxpayer. We're paying for all these abject errors. It's corruption on a massive scale.
Jonathan, stay there if you will. You might have one or two words to add to our callers as they may want to ask one or two questions of you. Jonathan is an economist and a wealth manager. Any questions about the euro that you want answering? Because the world of international currency can be a bit baffling to ordinary people like me and you. But no doubt about the impact on it as far as Jonathan Davies sees it. 08453 009956. Now, Savas is in Birmingham. Hello, Savas.
Hi there.
Savas, you're from Greece originally, yeah?
Yes, I am. Yes.
So what do you make of it? Great sympathy, I'm sure, from many of our listeners to your fellow countrymen. You know, many of us will have been to Greece on holiday. How's it feeling? What's it like there at the moment?
Things are very bad out there, you know. People lost their jobs. There's nearly 1.5 million unemployed, you know. Things are expensive, you know. People, you know, life is very difficult at the moment, you know. Everything is collapsing in Athens at the moment, you know. And I think people, you know, in a way, they want to get out from the euro and go back to drachma, you know, so they can, you know, They have a better quality of life. At the moment, things are very, very bad.
Oh, what? So you'd say people in Athens actually want to ditch the euro? They're not worried about falling out of the euro. They actually want to actively ditch it.
Yes, that's what they want. You know, because things are very expensive at the moment. There's no jobs. There's no cash. Cash flow. And, people could never dream that things will get so bad, And I think the faster they get out, the probably better for the people, It may be difficult in the beginning, going back to drachma. But I think in the long run, it'd be good for the people,
Yeah. Why do people think it would be better to go back to the drachma, Savas? I mean, I'm assuming that if their savings were all converted back into drachma now from euros, that their savings would possibly reduce quite significantly. That overnight the people of Greece might be impoverished.
Yeah, but at the moment, they impose them so many taxes, through Germany. I think the Greeks think now that Germany is really controlling Greece. Greece kind of lost their independence. All these, various taxes, on Greece. Reduce the wages. The pensioners. They used to get 600-700 euros. Now they get only 200 euros, things like this, and I find it very, very difficult to live on those kind of wages,
Yeah. Let me ask Jonathan about that. Jonathan, what would the impact on ordinary Greek people be if they overnight said, that's it, we're out the euro now, we're going to go back to our drachma?
Well, of course, many Greeks have been taking action to minimise the pain. They've been moving their Greek-held euros out of their banks into German banks and therefore getting German euros. And quite right, and the Spanish are doing that too. But to suggest that it's the Germans' fault for the Greeks being in the economic situation they're in now is unbelievable. I mean, it's nonsense. The Greeks have not been paying any taxes, and they've been voting in politicians forever who will give the Greeks something for nothing. Well, I'm sorry, there is no such thing as a free lunch. The Greeks have expected from cradle to grave something for nothing. Well, frankly, they need to start repairing their economic finances. They need to liberalise their economy. In Britain, if you want to set up a limited company, you go online, you've got your registration in 15 minutes. Try setting up a company in Greece. It takes years, literally, to set up a company because everything is a closed shop.
Well, let me ask Savas about that. Savas, have people in Greece sort of been, living an easy life, not paying their taxes, expecting great pensions and benefits when they haven't really been contributing to it?
No, I think that the man is quite wrong. It's not the ordinary Greek people who, took the money. It's the various corrupted, politicians. It shows, they used to collaborate with the Germans, for example, they used to buy things which never existed. And that kind of money never went to the ordinary people. The money they borrowed, it went to the politicians, corrupted businessmen who, what they've done, they borrowed the money on Greece's name. What they've done, they took the money and they sent it back to Switzerland or to England or whatever. So the ordinary people we never saw any of the money. So now what happened, because of all the corruption of what happened in Europe, with the markets and, borrowing money on big interest rates and all that, now who has to pay for all this? The ordinary people. The ordinary people never received anything. And you have the Germans.
The ordinary people didn't retire at 50.
Oh, you Southern Europeans, you don't work very hard. You're lazy people, you have to work hard and all this. It's all nonsense.
Savas, can I ask you one more question? And because our listeners might be thinking, Greece, good country to go to this summer because the economy is in turmoil. Yeah. We'll get a lot of value for our money. And I've been to the Greek islands myself on holiday and had a great time. But I mentioned this notion of taking cheap holidays in other people's misery. If Greek people are down in the mouth, as they may well entitled to be at the moment, would people really want to go to a country where the locals are very unhappy, where they're angry, where they feel as people maybe coming from Britain and sort of taking advantage of their poor situation?